His laughter still echoes in my head. The sheriff. A fat man with a badge he didn't deserve, calling me like he was doing me a favor. I own this town. Your daughter is finished. My daughter was in a hospital bed with her arm snapped in two by his son. A football star with more arrogance than skill, born into the illusion of untouchable power. They thought I was just a mechanic. They didn't know I used to map out escape routes for presidents, study choke points, vulnerabilities, one-way alleys where a convoy could be shredded in seconds. I didn't shout back at him, didn't beg. I only said, "Noted," and I hung up. 15 years of service had taught me one thing. Anger is a liability. You don't react, you prepare. I first met the sheriff 10 years ago, when I moved here to disappear. He shook my hand too long, eyes measuring me, voice coated with that fake Southern charm. "Small town. We take care of our own here," he said. What he meant was, he was the law, he was the order. Everyone else lived on his leash. Back then I smiled, played along, kept my head down, fixed engines, raised my daughter. I wasn't looking for a fight. But betrayal never comes when you're looking. It finds you when you're at peace. The night my daughter staggered through the door, cradling her arm, face pale with pain, I felt something in me lock into place. She said his name, the sheriff's boy. That was enough. I drove her to the hospital. I sat in the waiting room, breathing slow, watching the second hand tick around the clock. Then my phone rang. That laugh, that threat, that declaration that he owned the town. That's when my old instincts woke up. I didn't confront him, not yet. I started with the son. His routines, his weaknesses. He drove a red sports car like it was his crown. Always speeding, always reckless, always certain that Daddy's badge would clean up the mess. I knew his routes. I knew the shortcuts, the alleys, the blind spots. One in particular, a one-way alley downtown. Bricks closing in, no exit but forward. A perfect funnel. I'd studied places like that for motorcades, but tonight I wasn't protecting anyone. I was building a trap. The sheriff's boy was drunk when he left the bar that night. I had been there, sitting in the corner, nursing a coffee, watching, waiting. When he stumbled out and roared that engine to life, I was already moving. I rolled out my truck slowly, just enough to make him swerve. His reflexes did the rest. He jerked the wheel, the car spun, and he shot straight down the alley I'd left waiting for him. He hit the barricade I'd dragged into place an hour earlier. Steel and concrete don't bend for spoiled boys. The sound was thunder inside the bricks. His car folded, his crown shattered. I walked away before the sirens came. But this wasn't just about the boy. The sheriff still needed to learn what it meant to mock a man who used to plan the president's survival. For weeks I played it quiet, fixed engines, nodded at neighbors. Meanwhile, I was feeding little truths into the right ears. Property deeds that showed the sheriff's hands dirty. Quiet tips to federal agents about unreported cash. A few whispers to his political rivals. I didn't need to lie. Men like him always bury themselves in arrogance. All I did was hand the shovel to the people eager to dig. Then came the night he called me again. This time there was no laughter. His voice was tight, angry. "You think you're clever? You think you can touch me?" I didn't answer. I let the silence stretch until he broke it. Men like him can't stand silence. "You're finished," he spat. But I heard the cracks in his tone. He knew. The night his house was raided, I parked across the street in my truck, lights off. My daughter sat beside me, arm in a cast, eyes wide as she watched the man who said he owned the town, dragged out in handcuffs. He saw me through the flashing red and blue. Our eyes met. His face collapsed into the look I'd been waiting for. Not anger, not rage, realization. The realization that the man he thought was just a mechanic had played him, step by step, until everything he built was ash. I didn't smile, I didn't gloat, I just watched. People talk about revenge like it burns you up inside. They say it poisons you. Maybe, but sometimes poison is the only cure for a disease. My daughter's cast came off a few weeks later. She asked me if I did it, if I was the reason the sheriff and his son weren't untouchable anymore. I looked at her, at the strength in her eyes, and I said only this: no one owns this town. Not anymore.